Welcome, everybody that's on already, and I know we will be joined by others. I am completely prepared. I am ready.
Oh, you are ready. What are
I,
you drinking?
I'm drinking Chardonnay, and in my hand-painted wine glass. So that's my evil of choice. I was lucky enough to be in a very good wine group about 20 years ago, and it spoiled me for rotten wine. I ended up getting a taste for really expensive stuff I couldn't afford. But I know there's good stuff out there, and you're going to tell us about it. But I want to make sure that I thank Peter Dills, who was actually born into the world of food and wine. His dad was a food and restaurant critic for many years. So poor little Peter got dragged around to all these fabulous places. Um, and then went out on his
Getting
own.
dragged around.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. He now is on Go Country 105 as a radio host, talking food and wine and showcasing some of our best restaurants in Southern California. And he was kind enough to bring Michael Higgins, who, I mean, I hope you go to his website and read all about him, because if I kept telling you all the cool things about him, we'd use up the whole hour. But I loved this line that he has not only been the publisher of Flying Adventures magazine, but it's a lifestyle travel publication for food and wine lovers who own and travel on their own private airplanes. Jesus, Michael, that's a rarefied lifestyle that you live. We can only hope to learn about it. Anyway, you have tasted the finest wine and food the world over, and I hope you'll share some of that with us today. And cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
So do we? Look at
Yes, I'm
Pat's gonna start
uncorking
us
right
off.
now. I'm
Should we
pouring
pour
right
at the
now.
same time?
All
And
right.
cheers with her?
Okay,
Cheers.
let's do it.
Yeah.
So, Michael, I brought a cake bread sellers. They reign out of Rutherford area of the Napa Valley. It's Rutherford, and all of their wines, the Sauvignon Blancs, the Pinots, the Chardonnays, and I'm missing one.
Sauvignon Blanc. Cabernet also.
Sauvignon Blanc. They're all from Rutherford, so they're not sourcing any of the grapes from, let's say, the Central Coast. It's all from Rutherford, and that's what makes cake bread pretty special. Because it was the inside of it was, I told Pat that I was bringing cake bread to the party, and she said, "Oh, isn't that kind of vile? Isn't that kind of cheap?" And I said, "Cupcake." She goes, "Oh yeah, cupcake." Yes, yeah. So now we're gonna have a little cake bread. And we do have other people here in the studio, and we brought enough to share with everybody. Okay. All right. So we've got a conversation we're going to have with Michael today about his books that he has written. So obviously he's gone all over the world. And I was a little worried because we had a little time for prep, but I thought he might forget about California. But Mike's got some real good news, great news for all of us, because after this book is published, the Exploring Wine Regions, the Bordeaux, you are
doing California.
All right. So here's to California. Yes. And here's to all the people that are watching on Zoom and on Facebook. I'm not going to get technical. Does it matter about the glass? Is there an official Chardonnay glass? So even with red wine and Chardonnay, I can still swirl around just like you would?
You definitely want to swirl. And the reason you swirl is it brings the aromas out. Because remember, the taste in your mouth has a lot to do with what you smell, it's your nose.
If I say something that is incorrect to all the hundreds of thousands of people that are watching, you can correct me, because I have no pride here or shame. So
there's nothing wrong with drinking a bottle of wine incorrectly.
Okay.
It still tastes good.
So my thought is we only put this Chardonnay on ice for about 10 minutes, but I think that way we get to be able to taste it, because a lot of times people, they'll buy a $8 wine, a Chardonnay especially, or a $100 wine, and they almost freeze it, thus losing all the flavor at all.
You're right. The more you chill it, the less you're going to experience in the flavors.
So with this Chardonnay from Rutherford, do you think I chilled? Did we chill it enough?
I like it.
Okay, cheers.
I like it. Cheers. Yes, it's chilled.
Okay,
just enough.
I passed the first test on the the Chardonnay, bringing it to the expert. Michael Higgins is a wine author and a doctor. And what else? What else? Impress us with all your diplomas.
My diplomas. Wow. Gosh, I'm in the publishing business. I was introduced with Flying Adventures. I'm a pilot. I fly airplanes. I produce magazines for people who travel on planes. But the book series is called Exploring Wine Regions.
Right.
This is the book right here.
Okay.
So Exploring Wine Regions is a book series. This one's on Bordeaux, France, and it officially releases in 8 days. October 15th is the official release date. And I love doing this because I go to Bordeaux. So Exploring Wine Regions is about exploring them. So for 3 years, I went twice a year for 3 years. I actually spent 21 weeks in Bordeaux, photographing, meeting the winemakers, eating the food, staying in the castles. If there's one thing I told you about Bordeaux that just is mesmerizing, is the castles. This is the land of castles. There are castles everywhere, and I have lots of pictures of castles in here.
We like pictures. What is a Bordeaux style of wine? A Bordeaux style.
I want to show you one of my favorite castles. So we live in California. California is considered New World winemaking, and France is considered Old World. So when we buy wine in California, we think of buying a Pinot Noir, a Cabernet, a Merlot, a Chardonnay. That is not how the French do it. No, the French grow the grapes on their property, and they make the wine from the grape on their property, and it's a blend. So they're like chefs. They really make one wine. So when you think of going to a winery and they may have 5 or 10 different wines, that's not how it is there. They're perfecting the best of their property, and they're blending different grapes to make the very best they have.
Okay. So if I go to the region of France, a region of Champagne in France, and they are producing Champagne and using a Chardonnay type of grape or a Pinot Noir type of grape, they're not going to produce any Chardonnays or any Pinot Noirs. It's going to exclusively be Champagnes.
Right. See, the way the regions work is in Champagne, they're only allowed to grow that Chardonnay and that Pinot Noir and use that in their sparkling wine, which they call Champagne.
What's to stop them from selling it to somebody else, the grapes? You know, some guy comes up in a truck and says, hey, I want a bushel of grapes. I'm going to make my own Chardonnay.
Well, they can do that, but they can't call it. They can't call it by the region, so they can't call it Champagne.
Right.
Or like in Bordeaux, and
even
plus,
though the grapes were from the region of
that's
Champagne.
right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
So in Bordeaux, there's 5 red grapes: Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Malbec, which you brought a Malbec.
Yeah, from
Argentina, and Petit Verdot and Cabernet Franc. Those are the 5 Bordeaux varietals.
Okay.
That's what grows there. You are prohibited from growing those in Champagne, just like you're prohibited from growing that Chardonnay in Bordeaux.
So they have wine laws in California about estate grown and years. I won't get into that.
But it's a whole different set of rules. We have a lot of rules here, and they have a lot of rules there, but the rules are different.
Do these rules equate to a level playing field for the producers and for those people that are trying to sell and make money?
It is a level playing field. I mean, they all play by the same set of rules, and they know what they are.
Okay. All right. So I don't know, for some reason, I'm going to stick to France, south of France.
Okay.
You have the Rhone area, right?
Yes.
And then you've got places where they're big on rosés right now. And what else are they producing down there?
So when you speak of Rhone, the Rhone Valley, that would be like a Syrah that comes from the Rhone Valley. So when you speak of a rosé, you could make the rosé in any of those regions because the rosé is going to be the grape, say the Syrah, that they leave the skins on for a very short period of time, so it has just a little bit of color.
Okay.
But you could do the same thing with Cabernet in Bordeaux and call it a rosé there, and they do that.
Well, you know, since we're talking wine and God made water wine from water transformed, or whatever the story is, and we want to talk about waters and clean waters. Does that have an effect? California waters in Spain, France. How does that come about?
Well, water does make the difference. I mean, think of, we're switching subjects, but think about Coors. Don't they say it's the water?
And there's a pizza company in New York that actually exports their water to California, and then some of these pizza places here in California say we only use New York wine. I don't know if that matters once it's boiled out, but it makes for a good story.
Yeah, but if you're taking spring water, well water, I mean, this is, there's particular minerals in there that the plants are drinking. Because think of the soil. The soil has minerals in it too, and,
Right.
and the roots are absorbing this, and it's what's part of making the flavor. Like you brought, is this the Malbec?
Yes.
So a Malbec in Argentina is completely different than the Malbec in Bordeaux.
Okay.
And it's because of the terroir. It's the land,
Right.
it's the water,
Okay.
because in Bordeaux, there's two major rivers. In Argentina, it's the Andes Mountains, so it's snow melt.
Right.
So it's two different sources of water, different land, different temperatures. It's a whole different environment, and it produces a very different wine.
Is Malbec a style of wine, or is it, again, like champagne, it has to be from a region? You answered it.
It's actually neither. It's a grape.
Okay.
Malbec is a grape, and the grape comes from Bordeaux.
Okay.
And
Original.
Originally.
All right. So would we have anything in California that would be similar that we're growing here? Maybe a Pinot Noir, Grenache, anything similar, or it's got to be a Malbec that is imported?
Well, a Malbec is a Malbec. A Pinot Noir is a Pinot Noir. They're two very different grapes, and they have two very different flavors.
In California, I think we produce over 100,000 acres. I'm going to get technical. Sorry. We produce over 100,000 acres of the Chardonnay grape. Okay.
I could believe that. Yeah.
And as far as Pinots are a little tougher. Pinot Noir, I'm sorry, there's Pinot Gris and Pinot Grigio. Pinot Noirs are a little tougher to farm than the Chardonnay. Chardonnays grow pretty easily. But are there some grapes or some grapes that just can't assimilate to California? And I'm going to get on to Temecula and Paso Robles and Napa after you answer that question.
Well, you ask actually a bigger, more fascinating question. One of the things that's exciting about California is that we have a lot of different places to grow grapes that have different terroir.
Okay.
So in the really hot regions like this Rutherford, where Chardonnay and Cabernet work really, really well. So when it comes to the Pinot Noir, it wants cold. It wants like the Russian River,
Right.
or Carneros. These are
Yes.
places that have very cold weather,
Yeah.
and they thrive in that cold weather.
Okay.
And so one of the nice things about California is we can really get everything we want, because there's some place in California that will grow the grape optimally. In France, it's a different story. If you want Pinot Noir, you're going to get that from Burgundy. And Burgundy has that cold weather, and that's where they grow it. And plus the laws say that's where it's grown too. You cannot grow the Pinot Noir in Bordeaux, for example. Bordeaux is much warmer. It's made for Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. And when you think of the world, that loves Cabernet and Merlot, I mean, Napa's filled with Cabernet. The center of the universe of wine, when you really think about it, is Bordeaux, because this is where these plants started. Cabernet started in Bordeaux, and then those plants have been brought to Napa Valley, they've been brought to Chile and to Australia, and they've been taken all over the world. I mean, Cabernet is probably the most loved grape. And so this is its origin. So, I mean, going to Bordeaux, which is part of what this book is all about, is going there and experiencing where this all started. I mean, this is where it started.
Do you give little history lessons in all your books?
There is a history in there. You bet there is. Yes.
I think we should reintroduce ourselves just in case people are just
Don't know who we are?
no. Maybe they're just getting on Zoom right now.
You're Michael and I'm Peter.
Michael and Peter. My
Right.
brother's name is Michael.
Okay.
Well,
You
could
won't
be,
forget.
you're Michael, you're a brother from another. So anyway, it's Michael Higgins, it's Peter Dills. Michael is an author, a doctor. I'm a radio host, but we do often, not just time to time, interview people like Michael that have written great books. And this book is coming out, Exploring Wine Regions, Bordeaux. Give us, I know you did it, give us a quick rundown of books that you've published before, and are they all exploring wine regions?
Every one of them is exploring wine regions. If people want to go to our website, exploringwineregions.com, that's how you'll find us. Or even on social media, Instagram is Exploring Wine Regions, Facebook is Exploring Wine Regions. So they're all called Exploring Wine Regions. And then it's the location.
Okay.
So like Argentina.
Right.
So the last book was on Argentina, which pour some Malbec.
Yes,
We're talking Argentina.
Tell me,
This one's on Bordeaux. And this, by the way, is 494 pages and has almost 1,000 of my photographs in it. And for those of you who want to see, beautiful photos. For me, the best part about this book is the beautiful photography. And it's not just wineries, it's places to stay in vineyards, castle. Hey, here's a castle, for example. I don't know if I can bring this right on up so you can see this castle. Keep going, keep going.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. So I point out the places where you can actually stay in the castle, in the vineyard.
How do you
Amazing.
How do you find out about these places? I mean, how do you book a tour? How do you book a castle? How do you know what wineries you want to visit? I mean, you know, but because of years of experience. But I think for anybody that says, wow, that looks pretty good, I think I want to go down to Argentina. I think I want to go to the Bordeaux area.
That's why I do these books.
Right.
Because before I went, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look on the internet and you can see things, but it's not the same as when you go there. And when I go there, I went for a minimum of 2 weeks every time, and even a month at a time. And one time I even went for 2 months at a time. That's how much time I spent when I was there. And I'm working with the associations, the winery association, the tourism associations, and I'm having them lead me to the right places, because a lot of people think of France and Bordeaux as the wineries are closed. And it used to be that way. They would say to you, we make wine, leave us alone.
Right.
But they've realized, partly because of California and tourism and wineries, that it makes sense for them to open up the wineries. So every winery in this book accepts tourism. And I even went a step further. It's not just tourism where you can go in and taste their wine, but they actually have things to do, you know, like going horseback riding. You know, another one has, you can get up in a tree and do wine tasting way up in the sky. And another one actually has an airplane, and they'll take you for a flight over the vineyards.
Oh, nice.
I mean, there's a lot of things that they're doing. A lot of culinary, so a lot of food and wine pairings, cooking classes. They're doing a lot of interesting things, and that's what I seek out for this book.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to hitch a ride one of these times.
Let's go. I'm
It
ready.
sounds pretty
Yes.
good. It sounds better than Disneyland. It sounds like an adult Disneyland.
It really is an adult Disneyland. Yes. And speaking of adult Disneyland, I go beyond just the wineries. The Atlantic Ocean is there. So I do the whole beach community of the Atlantic Ocean. It's called the Medoc Atlantique. And then the city of Bordeaux is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's one of the most spectacular cities. It's amazing. And then another city is Saint-Emilion, and that's also a UNESCO site. I have this picture here that just, when you see this, you're going to want to go to, look at that.
Wow.
This is downtown Bordeaux in the city center. Look at this. Is that, try to get the reflection off of it? Amazing.
So that's basic. Yeah, I get it.
And so I go into the cities and I find the places that you can do food and wine pairings, because this is about, of course, exploring the wine regions.
Right.
And so food and wine pairings in the city, as well as going out into the vineyards and experiencing amazing restaurants, wineries, accommodations.
I've got a thought. I have a
Yes.
question for you, but I first want to ask the ladies, has anybody posed any questions? Are we taking any questions? Do we have any questions?
Not yet. Does
No?
everyone
Nope.
want to show what they're drinking?
Does what?
Does
do we?
anyone want to show what they're drinking?
Oh, okay. Oh, the people that are watching. Well, we saw what Pat's
Yeah,
drinking.
them.
You know what we're drinking? We're drinking. Okay, look at that. How fun.
Is that
Wow.
on there? Can you see it? That's what we're drinking.
Yeah. We got a couple
Napa
thumbs up.
Valley here and Argentina here.
Yeah, we got a couple thumbs up. People approve of our selections, or my selections, your selections. Okay, so my next question is, my next thought is that you've obviously explored wine regions.
Yes.
The only thing I have to go by is California, because I have to admit that I have not explored any other even states besides California.
Well, then you do have to go with me to Bordeaux.
So
You will be a changed man.
I need to be. I've noticed, Michael, that when I go to going 20, 25 years, and I'm sure a lot of our watchers have gone to Paso Robles and Napa, years ago, they would invite you in and there was a sampling and tasting. And then as things progressed in these wine regions, there became a fee. Now they wouldn't just give you a glass, they would charge you for samples.
Mhm.
And then they've gone even farther in selling wine in wine clubs. Okay.
Yeah.
We're all
that's right.
familiar. We're all familiar with wine clubs. I bet a lot of you people are members of wine clubs. But the wine clubs sometimes, not now, but you could go to a supermarket, Vons or Pavilions, and buy the wine cheaper than you could at the winery. So I pose back to you, is that the same case in Argentina and France? Are they selling, you go to the winery, and then you could go 5 miles away and they have a little market and you could buy a bottle of wine there. How is the pricing?
Well, the concept goes beyond wine.
Okay.
And that is that the manufacturers do not want to compete with their retailers.
Okay.
So the wineries are the manufacturers and they sell at the retail price, suggested retail.
Sure.
Because of course they could sell at the lowest price to the
Right.
source. And if they
Right.
did that, the retailers would be very upset.
Right.
And it's any kind of a product. It doesn't have to be wine. It could be a refrigerator.
Yeah.
Manufacturers are smart not to compete with the retailers.
Okay.
It's suggested retail.
All right. Well,
And it's the same in Bordeaux. It's the same in
Okay.
Argentina and California. It's more of a commerce concept.
Right.
Don't compete with the people who sell your product.
Right. Okay, then that makes sense. That makes me actually feel a whole lot better, because I was always like, wow, why am I here at Schramsberg and paying $39 for a Blanc de Noir when I know that I can get it somewhere for 32 easily?
Mhm.
But okay, I think I'm good with that answer. I
mean,
feel
that's
a
what
lot
happens.
better about it now. But have you had that response from your friends when just traveling and they go, wow, we can get it less expensive at the
It's true. But
Yeah.
you know, I want to tell you something about price, because, and maybe those of you who are watching, there's a perception that the French wine is expensive.
right.
And in some sense it is. So I have two things to say about that. First of all, when you go there, it's a very different price. You will be surprised how little the price is. It's not as expensive as you think.
Okay.
The second thing is that if we go back to 1855, when Napoleon was ahead of the World's Fair in Paris, decided who were the best wineries in the world. These are the Grand Cru Class A's of 1855. Those Grand Crus today, 150 years later, have this prestige. That's Chateau Latour, Chateau Margaux, Chateau Lafite, Chateau Mouton. They sell their wine for $1,000 a bottle, and not just there, but here too.
Right.
So that gives this perception of very expensive.
Right. So we only hear about that.
Right, because they're so high profile.
Yeah.
But there are lots of wines that are $20, $25, $30, $35 that are extraordinary wines. And there's even wines that compete with those Lafittes, for example, that are maybe $100 to $200 a bottle. That, you know, when you compare that to 1,000, it's a very different story. It's not what we think, that everything is expensive. And everything in my book, by the way, I have gone there, I have tasted the wine to make sure that these are really great wines. And I can tell you, I walk out of there sometimes when thinking to myself, that bottle is only $10. I think that is an amazing bottle of wine for $10.
Can I tell you my $10 story?
Uh-oh.
So you and I both live in the area of Pasadena,
Right.
but maybe I don't see you as often. I like champagne. I
Mhm.
like sparkling wine. And I consider myself, and anybody that's on Facebook knows that I like champagne, and it's a Tattinger I like.
Mhm.
Okay, let's just stick with that. I'm not going to rattle off any other names. So I'm at a defunct restaurant in Pasadena called Paul Martin.
Mhm.
And they have it for $80 a bottle, whatever it is. And I'm sharing it with this young lady, and she says to me, it's during Christmas time. She says, "Do you like Tattinger?" I said, "I love it." She goes, "You know, they have a champagne at Trader Joe's for $10 that you need to try." And I said, "No, honey. No, that's sparkling wine." And she goes, "Well, whatever it is, check it out." And I thought, okay. For some reason, I went up to Trader Joe's, and it was simply called, Michael, it was simply called Mendocino Sparkling Wine. That was the only name on it at
Wow.
Trader Joe's.
That was it.
That was it.
Okay.
$10 a bottle.
And
It was phenomenal.
wow.
And I was impressed. And there I was saying I would never spend less than 25. like a Schaffenberger would be about as low as I would go on the sparkling wine. And maybe a Domaine Chandon or things like that. I was just like, I learned, and I just had to check myself. And to Michael's point, to everybody watching out there, whatever you drink, whatever you like, it's fine. Because I actually bought 2 bottles because I was so enthralled and knew that anything at Trader Joe's might not last, especially at that price. I ended up bringing 2 bottles because I just thought, wow, this is a perfect holiday wine to bring to people's homes that say, hey, here's the champagne guy. What did you bring?
And it ended up being really good.
It ended up being really good.
Wow.
So I
Yeah.
wonder if it's, I don't know, maybe I got to make a trip to Trader Joe's to see if it's still there.
Mhm.
But it was called Mendocino Sparkling Wine, and it was good for $10. If it was $35, I don't know. But for $10, it was darn good.
Well, sparkling wine does not mean that it's not good. Remember in the beginning, you were talking about champagne. In order to put the name champagne on the bottle, it must have been from that specific region. So for example, in Bordeaux, they make sparkling wine, but they cannot call it champagne.
Where is the Reims area of France? Is it below Champagne? It's adjacent. It's just below it.
Exactly.
Okay, so that so that's not a part of Champagne. So on the bottle it would say Reims.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to call it sparkling wine.
Okay.
It's just like the Schramsberg you say you love.
I love it. I do.
And it's really good.
Yeah.
I love it too.
Yeah.
Napa Valley. It says sparkling wine because you have to.
Yeah.
It's a trademark.
Right. And then, the people that are watching probably see when they go to the supermarket, they'll see something like Corbel, and it will say Champenois, meaning the same style, like champagne style, but it's not really. So
The Champenois style is that secondary fermentation to create the sparkling naturally in the bottle.
I brought this Norton Malbec for you, actually, especially because I had a bottle of rosé, Grenache rosé in the car, and I got, no, wait a minute, Michael Higgins, I better bring some Malbec. So this Norton runs about $14 or $15 at the store. Are you familiar with the brand?
I am.
Okay.
It's one of the largest wineries in Argentina.
Okay.
They're huge. And cheers.
So the notes.
I love Malbec. I guess you knew that. That's why you brought this. Malbec is so good.
So
from Argentina.
I'm going to throw out some terms, and I don't want to bore people, but I don't find this to be fruit forward like a California Cabernet would be. Not jammy at all. This is more of chalky, earthy,
Mhm.
And
It's more serious than it is fruity.
yeah,
Mhm.
thank you. Okay, I was right. Thank goodness I was right. I got one right finally on wine. But that was just, it's just like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is good.
Do you have any suggestions? We should talk about this. 'Cause it's a-
Malbec, right?
well, no, food and
Oh,
such.
food, okay.
Give me some foods that a Malbec might be considered. I mean, obviously in Argentina, they're eating a lot of steak, but would this be something that you would get with steak?
You know, the classic thing in Argentina
Yeah,
is a bottle of Malbec
right.
and asado. Asado is the meat cooked over wood, and they cook it for several hours. It is the most amazing thing you've ever tasted. And that really is the pairing. When you're asking about pairing, is that beef, incredible beef, and incredible Malbec.
Are they, I didn't read the book, are they into cheeses in Argentina like we are in France?
Not nearly as much as we are,
Okay.
and not nearly as much as France is.
So they would import their cheese.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and they do have cheese there too.
Okay.
They do. But it's not, I mean, the big thing with the wine is the beef.
How are we doing on time? You guys are kind of looking at something. We're okay. All right. Maybe they
We're
need
good.
a little wine here. That's maybe what the problem is. Not problem, but maybe we need to. We've got two ladies helping us with the whole thing.
And they should be drinking
They
with
should
us.
be drinking, and we're the ones
Yes.
having a good time. You know?
Well, cheers to the ladies
Okay,
having a
cheers to
glass
the
of wine.
ladies.
Yeah.
Cheers to the book.
Well, you know something? What started this book series for me is exactly this wine. Malbec. I love Malbec, and I wondered why the Argentines made it so good.
We have a question.
We do. Should we avoid California wines and for how long because of the fires?
Should we do what to them?
Avoid
Avoid
California
them.
Well,
wines.
those okay, I'm going to say my part, and my part will be 10 seconds. But those wines haven't even come to store yet. So, no, we're still, for especially red wines, we're still drinking 2017s and 2018s. So these wines aren't going to be available. Now, about the price, that might have an effect.
Wow. This is an amazing question. And people have been asking me this question. And I thought to myself, okay, wine is aged in oak barrels.
Right.
And they burn those oak barrels. They actually put fire in there, and it's called toasting.
Yeah.
So
Toasted.
the wine is living in this burnt oak.
Right.
And I thought, okay, well, if you have a fire, just have less burnt oak, right? Reduce it.
Okay. But
I
the
mean,
smoke that hits the leaves and the grapes.
Well, but that's my point. If it's on the grapes, I thought, okay, well, you already got some of this toasted, smoky stuff.
Right.
Maybe if they just compensated at the other end. But it's not really true at all.
Okay.
It's
Okay. I was
not.
like, wow, maybe they can make lemonade out of lemons here and say we're charging more because it's 2020. It's toasted.
Well, some people say, hey, I like the toasty flavor in
Yeah.
wine, and,
Mhm.
and it actually is good. you
Well,
know?
right. There's we're talking about wine, but there's a very popular bourbon that actually the casks are toasted,
Mhm.
and they charge
they
more
are.
for it.
It is toasted, and it's important. But here's what happens. And actually, those of you who are watching, since I've heard you've been having chemistry classes all week, this is really a chemistry discussion, because that smoke, the chemicals in that smoke are what's destroying the grape. It's
Yes.
not the
Yes.
flavor, it's
Yeah.
the chemical. It's a chemical reaction of the smoke and the grape, and it destroys it. And I'm not a chemist and I'm not a scientist, but I was reading about this, and I wish I could throw out some fancy chemical names, but
Well,
that it's an actual destructive process that those grapes aren't any good, no matter what you do
I've got to
afterwards.
let you in a little secret here, and I hope you take this well, and I hope you're flattered by what I'm about to tell you. The gentleman that was supposed to be the guest today is Hugh Davies, who is the winemaker for Schramsberg. His
Yeah.
dad. But on the phone with him 2 days ago, they still at the winery, they still have firemen there putting out fires. And
Wow.
they said that I didn't know that Schramsberg even produced red wine. I thought it was all just champagne or sparkling wines. But he had told me that some of the white wines are going to be a little bit more difficult to get in the future. So, but I think that's a couple of years away. I mean, at least two, because we're correct. We're like a Rombauer Chardonnay is 2017, 2000. 18. I know that for a fact.
So the white grapes are picked first.
Okay.
And I think all of the white grapes were picked before the fires. In fact, a lot of the red grapes were picked before the fires.
Okay.
So it all depends on when it was picked. Because once the fire hit, that's what changed the story. So especially the quality wineries, once the fire hit, they stopped.
Yeah.
They're not even going to deal with it. They're just going to let those grapes go, and they're going to make less wine is what they're going to do.
Right. Which might be bring up the prices.
But speaking of Hugh Davies and Schramsberg, he's doing Chardonnay. That should have been harvested. He should be okay. But I have something funny to say that's really interesting about Hugh, because I know Hugh.
Okay.
And we can tie this back to Bordeaux and Napoleon. So Napoleon used to celebrate his battles by using a sword and taking open the bottle. You ever seen that happen when they take the sword and they open the bottle with the sword?
Right.
Hugh taught me how to do that.
It's actually called
sabering.
Sabering.
Exactly. So he taught me how to saber champagne or sparkling wine.
This is how much Napoleon loved champagne.
Yeah, that's true.
He would say, in victory, I deserve it. And in defeat, I need it. Maybe not those exact words.
Well, that's right.
That's what he said. I think that's probably my life mantra too.
Right.
In depression, I need it. And in victory, I love it.
Well, when we go home at night and we open up a bottle of wine,
yeah.
Well, we had a good day and we're celebrating. We had a bad day, and you're right, we needed it.
Right. Okay, let's talk more about the book. I think that it's the opportunity is to swing back.
Okay.
Let's talk about the book.
Yeah.
Anytime that I'm on my radio show, Go Country 105, every Sunday morning, you can go onto my website, diningwithdills.com, in case you're out of the area, which a lot of people are. The idea is when I interview a restaurateur, a restaurant, or a chef, they, at the end of the interview, not saying we're done, they say, well, this is where we're at. This is how you get to our restaurant. Mm-hmm. We haven't even talked about
how do we get to the book?
How do we get to the book? How do we get the book?
Yes.
I mean, you can drive down to San Gabriel right now and
that's right.
Meet us in the parking lot.
So you can go to our website, exploringwineregions.com. There's a tab that says books, and you can get our books. This month is, of course, the introduction of this book. October 15th is the official release. And so if you go to one of our social media sites, meaning Facebook or Instagram, and you like our post, you make a comment, and you ask for a discount, we're going to give you a discount code for $10 off.
Okay, great.
And then you can go to our website and get it for $10 off. And
dare I ask about Amazon?
Yep, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes & Noble. There are a lot of places, lots of independent. Romans has it. Independent bookstores, big stores. We're distributed by Baker and Taylor. They're the largest book distributor in the world. Okay. So they do an amazing job with this book. In fact, they've already gone through the first pallet of books, and it's not even released yet. I mean, so it's on its way.
It is something unique, and I kind of I like the airplane thing, but what about a boat? Like all these rich folks that have boats, like the Caruso. Rick Caruso has a gigantic boat there off of Newport. Maybe we spend time on a boat and talk about what they're drinking on boats. I don't know. The boat cruise.
The boat cruise. Yes. Yeah. Well, you know what? This makes a great gift. I don't know if you can tell from there. It's beautiful. It's got this vellum plastic with gloss on the photos. It's got these French gatefolds here. The book is printed on museum quality art paper. It is absolutely stunning. It's only $45, and you can get it for $35 with that discount. And we got written up in Departures magazine. Departures is the magazine for American Express, the Black Card and so forth. And they said that this is the perfect gift for any wine lover.
Okay, so this book releases this week, and then we're gonna
in 8 days.
In 8 days, we're gonna move on to exploring wine regions of California. What after that? What can we imagine after that?
Well, picture this. Argentina was big. It's 350 pages. This one is 494 pages. California will be another 350 pages at least. What I want to do after California is something small and simple. I want to go to New Zealand. And since you were talking about Pinot Noirs, the Pinot Noirs and the Sauvignon Blancs there are just extraordinary. We'll make a smaller book.
Okay.
That's what I plan to do.
All right. So we've been pretty positive here.
Yep.
I mean, we have just given sunshine to the wine industry. Are there some places that are producing wine that just shouldn't? I've got one, but are there places that shouldn't be producing wine that you're not too big on? Any countries that say, hey, if you're going for wine tasting, that maybe that's not where you want to go. All right.
What I've learned is it's all about the terroir. It really is.
The terrain.
And if you think of Bordeaux, and my book is an education, by the way, on terroir. France is an education on terroir, but it holds true even here in California. So when you ask this question, it's all about the terroir. If you've got the right environment for that particular grape, that's where the magic happens.
Right.
And you just can't do that everywhere.
Right.
You know, it has to have certain kinds of ingredients, let's call it. There's quite a few ingredients, but that's important. It's essential.
I was born in Athens, Greece.
Okay?
Does that mean 10 seconds or 10 minutes?
Minutes.
10 minutes. We got 10 minutes. I was born in Athens, Greece.
Okay.
And I went back a few years ago and tried the wine, went to this beautiful winery. And then on the island that we were on, I can't remember, they're growing it. The grapevines look more like bushes than they do like vines because it's a volcanic, the water's actually, they're not relying on the rain, they're relying on the water seeping up through the volcanic ashes to feed the bushes. I'm not even going to call them vines. But I didn't think the wine was that great. And I know that Mexico was producing wine for years. Calafa, I think it's called. Something like that. So it's just sometimes when I go to different places, like, wow, they haven't figured it out, but I don't know.
Well, just like with every product, there's the good and the bad.
See, you've got a positive spin on everything. Yes, we have another question.
We have a question. Is it okay to mix red and white?
What does that mean? I mean, like, I am where I'm mixing it.
You mean, I wonder if the question is for us to mix the red and white or for the winemaker to mix the red and white?
For the drinker.
So should I be having a cracker between the red and white? Is that what the question is? Or are they saying I'm going to?
If you want to drink a red and a white, I would start off with food that paired really nicely with the white, and then I would move on to the red. I wouldn't do this.
Okay.
I would do what we're doing. You see, we have got the white and we have the red.
I really like this cake bread.
It's really good, isn't it?
It's really good.
Yeah, and Cake Bread's a great winery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And you know the story. Why don't you tell the story of Cake Bread? Kind of like what you're doing, your book. The gentleman that started Cake Bread was taking photographs and bought a plot of land up in Napa Valley.
Isn't it amazing how it starts?
Yeah.
You never know.
So you're familiar with the story?
I'm not familiar with that story.
So he's a photographer and a young guy, and he's going to a winery and loves the winery. And the guy that owns the winery commissions him to take photos and says, hey, I really like what you do. I want to do this. And he goes, well, you know, this is in the 70s. You know, across the street, you can get 12 acres for back then, whatever it was. Did this, planted this. And they said the rest seriously.
That's how it happened.
That's how Cake Bread started as a person that just enjoyed taking pictures of grapes and wines. Like you, maybe there's a winery in your future.
You know, every time I go to a wine region, I think, golly, wouldn't that be fun to do? I mean, yes, it would be a lot of work, but a great business to be in, right?
Well, come on, Ray, we need help. What was the movie with Kevin Kline when he went over to France and grabbed the vine to smuggle back over here to the States because he was going to start his own winery?
It was Kevin Kline?
Kevin Kline. Oh, definitely Kevin Kline.
I don't know.
And he went to France and he bought this. His whole thing was he was going to buy this vine, and smuggle it back into the States. It was like gold or something. And
a lot of that goes on, by the way. smuggling vines.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was his whole thing. And I think at the end of the movie, it turned out all
French Kiss.
right. What?
French Kiss is the name of the movie.
French Kiss.
French Kiss. Okay, was it Melanie Griffith? I don't know. French Kiss. So yeah, you smuggled the vine back over here.
Yes.
Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan. Oh man, see that's.
Thank
I'm
you,
glad
Joyce.
somebody knew that.
You're
yeah,
welcome.
so-
I
Well,
like to
I
watch the
Googled
movie.
it.
I don't remember all the pieces.
Isn't the Zoom thing great? I mean,
It
we
is.
can, if we forget, if we have a brain fart, and somebody's out there to answer the questions for
Yes.
us.
Well, I was hoping they just turn it off and then when we could recover.
Yeah. No, I walked out. I wouldn't have gotten French Kiss. I was thinking when I don't know Harry
Yes.
Met Sally or something crazy like that.
Well,
All right, we talked.
Peter,
Michael Higgins.
to be honest with you, I think we could have you guys on every night. That'd be fine by me because
Okay,
We could just keep
I
going
think that's a
with this.
signal.
It's a signal. Yes.
I do want to give a shout out to your location, Clearman's Northwoods Inn
Yeah,
in San
Northwoods
Gabriel.
Inn.
And
Picture of the
the
restaurant.
Clearman's family does own also Steak and Stein. And so if any of you live anywhere near a Clearman's, feel free to drop in. And they're dining outdoors at the moment, but I suspect that Governor Grewsome will let them go indoors here pretty soon. Anyway, and they were kind enough to let us video there today.
Well, thank you for having us. Thank you, Michael, for being a
Oh,
participant.
yes.
And buy the book.
Please buy the book.
Thank you.
You will love it.
Thank you to the Pacific Water Quality Association for
Thank
inviting
you
us.
for having us talk today.
Yeah, you're a
Yes.
much better guest
This
than
was
you
fun.
Davies. So go out and buy Michael's book and listen to my radio show on Sundays on Go Country
Indeed.
105.
You know what? Big thanks to both of you. I really, really appreciate it. And I know PWQA does too. And so cheers to both of you and everybody online. And we will see our association members tomorrow morning at the bright early hour of 7 o'clock.
Cheers to you.
Cheers. Night, night, everybody.
Cheers
Thank
to
you, Michael and
everybody.
Peter. Cheers.
Gosh, it's great to see all your faces. Now I see who we've been talking to. Cheers to all of you.
Why didn't you?
I hope you're opening a great bottle of wine tonight, and thank you for letting us
Yeah,
talk.
thank you, everybody.
Well, we
Of
have
course.
cheers from South Korea.
From South Korea. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, we have members from all over.
Well, for whoever that is in South Korea,
I'm
this book
here.
is printed in South Korea.
Oh,
How is that?
okay.
They do an incredible job for us, as you can see.
Perfect.
So cheers to South Korea.
Thank you. 건배, Korean 건배. Cheers.
I think that's wrong. Kampai is Japanese.
Yes.
Well,
Bye,
that was cool.
everyone. We'll see you in the morning.
That was fun. Thank you, guys.
have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.